Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. It feels like every miraculous leap forward in tech lately extracts some kind of hidden cost from us. And tonight, we're synthesizing 6 pretty shocking stories to find out exactly what that cost is. We are diving into a rapidly shifting landscape where nothing is quite what it seems. From hardware miracles to massive geopolitical standoffs, we're going to look at the massive headlines that are literally shaping tomorrow's industry. All right, here's our roadmap for tonight. We've got 4 main themes: the illusion of ownership, the AI battlefield, pushing tech boundaries, and finally, the price of progress. Let's get right into it and see how all these disparate gaming and tech stories actually connect. Section 1, the illusion of ownership. What happens when you don't really own anything anymore? We're seeing a fundamental shift that's completely changing what it means to actually buy media. And, this anxiety isn't just felt by us consumers, it's shared by absolute industry legends like Hideo Kojima, the mastermind behind Metal Gear Solid and Death Stranding. Sony recently announced that PlayStation physical disc production is officially ending in January 2028, and Kojima's viral tweet about it captured a very real, very widespread fear. His core concern is absolutely crucial. In a fully digital cloud-based future, you don't truly own your media. A digital game isn't a possession. It's literally just a revocable license. Think about how incredibly fast this happened. Back in the golden age of CDs and DVDs, physical media made up 98% of the market. But look at the acceleration. By the PS4 and Xbox One era, digital hit 50%. Then, the pandemic accelerated a near-complete market takeover, pushing digital all the way to 75%. And now, looking ahead to 2028, the total end of PlayStation disc production renders the physical format entirely obsolete for one of the world's largest platforms. It's wild. But here's the real kicker. The jarring consequence of this digital shift isn't just about losing shelf space. It is a massive preservation crisis. The Video Game History Foundation estimates that a staggering 87% of classic American games are essentially lost to the public. They are no longer legally accessible anywhere. Sure, museums can maintain old 80s cartridges, but if a digital server shuts down today or a publisher goes bankrupt, those digital-only games just vanish permanently. When you weigh the options, it becomes totally clear why 65% of gamers still fiercely prefer physical copies. Physical media represents true possession, right? You can touch it, you can trade it, you can pop it into a console 30 years from now. Digital games, on the other hand, are tethered to servers and entirely subject to the whims of corporate service changes. Digital ecosystems simply cannot replicate that tangible sense of ownership and security. This loss of consumer control extends heavily into regional access, too. We really have to ask why Sony is repeating their massive Helldivers 2 public relations disaster by blocking PC gamers in 132 different nations from buying their new fighting game, Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, on Steam. Keep in mind, these aren't small markets. We're talking about excluding massive gaming populations across Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America. And why? Solely because of mandatory PlayStation Network account linking. Now, Sony officially claims this requirement is all about security and moderation, but let's look at the much more likely business motivations going on behind the curtain here. By forcing a PSN link, Sony prioritizes highly valuable user data collection, gathering your play patterns and purchasing habits for targeted marketing, while also enforcing ecosystem lock-in. They're essentially asking PC gamers to sacrifice global access and their privacy for corporate benefit, with really no value returned to the player. Section 2. The AI battlefield. Because the price of progress isn't solely about consumer ownership and gaming ecosystems, it's also about navigating the incredibly complex cultural and geopolitical battlefield of artificial intelligence. Let's look at a prime example of AI crashing right into culture. Over the July 4th holiday, Google released an ad with the tagline, "Group Project, but make it 1776. It showed Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin using Google Docs, Meet, and Gemini AI suggestions to actually draft the Declaration of Independence. Well, the backlash was immediate and fiercely divided. Supporters saw a clever, fun celebration of modern collaboration tools. However, critics argued it was incredibly culturally insensitive, stating that having an algorithm suggest edits for one of humanity's most profound historical documents heavily diminishes the actual human achievement of writing it. Shifting from cultural battlefields to geopolitical ones, to understand our next story, we first need to define a term called fingerprinting. Basically, it's a tracking technique used to identify you by collecting system information, stuff like your IP address, your language, and your time zone. And this specific tracking capability recently escalated the technology Cold War between the United States and China. Here's what happened. Chinese security researchers at Alibaba discovered fingerprinting code tucked inside Anthropic's Claude Code AI. Anthropic states this is strictly for compliance with U.S. export laws restricting AI tech in China. But Alibaba, fearing this could function as an American backdoor to harvest sensitive data, strictly banned its employees from using Claude altogether. Instead, they forced a total migration to Cooter, which is their internal, fully controlled AI platform. This highlights a massive strategic dilemma. We are literally witnessing the fracturing of a global AI commons into separated regional spheres, dictated by export controls and data sovereignty. All right, Section 3. Pushing tech boundaries. This is where we contrast the incredible excitement of pushing hardware limits against the stark, silent vulnerabilities those exact same leaps introduce. Starting with the limits of hardware, we got this incredibly tantalizing quote from Square Enix. When somebody asked them about bringing the massive, graphically demanding 55-gigabyte Final Fantasy XV to the unannounced Nintendo Switch 2, they simply replied, "Not entirely impossible." This proves that rumors of these powerful new Tegra chips are entirely credible. They are genuinely blurring the historical line between stationary home consoles and portable handhelds. So how does a developer actually achieve that kind of hardware miracle on a tiny device? Well, Square Enix has multiple avenues to fit a cinematic engine onto a portable format. They could use a cloud version, which requires constant internet. They could use downscaled graphics, which obviously sacrifices visual fidelity. They could do a chibi-style pocket edition, or even use episode-based splitting. But the thing is, each one of these technological workarounds comes with its own unique trade-off for the player's experience. On the flip side of this relentless tech advancement, we find severe vulnerabilities. The gamer-focused browser Opera GX recently suffered a catastrophic, albeit very quickly patched, flaw in its protocol handler validation. This wasn't just some minor bug, folks. It allowed malicious sites to install browser extensions entirely in the background. Because, who doesn't love a surprise guest poking around in their hard drive? Let me break down how terrifyingly fast an attack like this unfolds in practice. Step 1. You visit a totally ordinary gaming forum that happens to have a hidden exploit. Step 2, boom, a malicious add-on auto-installs silently. Because browser extensions require enormous permissions to function, Step 3 means that add-on could instantly read your session cookies, steal your saved passwords, and monitor banking data without you ever clicking a single prompt. It completely, utterly bypassed the browser's security model. Which brings us to our final section, the price of progress. Let's pull all of these distinct headlines together to understand what we should take away from this rapidly evolving industry landscape and what it really means for us as users. Bringing all these threads together, we can clearly see that every miraculous leap forward extracts a tangible cost from the consumer. The amazing convenience of digital libraries costs us true ownership, exactly like Kojima warned. The incredible power of global AI tools plunges us into geopolitical cold wars and fractured ecosystems, like we saw with Alibaba. And the incredibly complex browsers we rely on every single day, they open the door to devastating, silent vulnerabilities. It leaves us with this final, provocative thought to ponder. Will we just continue to sacrifice true ownership, global access, and our own personal security simply for the sake of momentary convenience and corporate profit? Make no mistake, how we as consumers choose to navigate these tensions and demand better practices today will completely dictate the digital rights we possess tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, everyone. Keep questioning the tech around you, and I'll catch you next time.